Okay, a very good afternoon to everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Right off the bat, I just wanted to say a very happy World Mental Health Day to all of you. Now, this is a very special session, I think mainly to me, if not anyone else, because this is the first time since the 4 months that we started with Petronas that we actually have the team sitting together and having a chat. We've had a couple of sessions before, but now we have the team together. Unfortunately, we don't have all members on board today, but that's okay. We'll make up for that soon. But yeah, so basically what we're trying to do with this session is we want to, talk about give you a small glimpse into the behind the scenes of Petronas, a glimpse into the lives of the people who are working behind the scenes in Petronas, their perspectives on mental health, and maybe hopefully you will be able to take away something from this session for your own lives to take care of your own mental health as well. Before that, I also want to, give you a small introduction about Petronas for the uninitiated. So Petronas is an initiative that was created with the intention to bring a small space on the internet, and we'll be branching out soon to other forums as well. But right now, Petronas is an initiative that aims to create a warm space for engaging and comforting dialogue on mental health, because that is severely lacking in today's world, and we wanted to, bridge that gap with this initiative. And we also aim to create a space wherein we can engage in educational and reassuring content that you can take away for your own mental health at the same time. So that's Petronas for you. As I said, this session is going to be with a panel of non-professionals. So I want to put it out as a disclaimer that nothing that will be discussed today should be taken as a substitute for professional advice. This is just personal opinions and textbook material. If you feel like you need any help with your mental health, then please reach out to a professional. You can consult our Instagram page for any kind of if you need any kind of help, you can drop us a message and we'll try and connect you to a professional. Or you can check out our highlights as well. The link to our Instagram page will be in the description below, so please check it out. And yeah, I think with that we can get started. Okay, so we'll start off with the introductions. My name is Anvita. I'm the founder of Petronas, and I'm also an engineering student in my final year. I will be moderating the session today. So yeah, I think we can start with the others.
Hi guys, I'm Harshika and I'm the operations head at Patronus, and I'm currently pursuing my undergraduation in computer science engineering, and that's about me. And all of you, I wish you a very happy mental health day.
Hi guys, my name is Neha and I'm the design head at Patronus. I am currently studying computer science and engineering at NITTE. I'm in my final year. And yes, of course, I wish all of you a very happy mental health day.
Hi guys, my name is Prerana Subhas Chandra. I'm the content head at Patronus. I am a third-year medical student at Bangalore Medical College and Research Institute. Mental health is something that I'm very passionate about, and that is why I'm here. And happy Mental Health Day, guys. Take care.
Hi guys, my name is Krithika and I'm the social media head at Petronas, and I wish you all a very happy mental health day.
Okay, great. So I think we can start off with the session. So my first question to you all will be, what has your personal experience with mental health been? That is, have you experienced mental illness, or do you know anyone else who has experienced mental illness? If yes, how did it affect your lives? How did it impact your lives? Before getting your views on it, I'll just give you a small insight into my own experience with mental health. So my first encounter with mental illness was 3 years back when I lost my best friend to suicide. It came as a complete shock, and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know why she had taken the step. And it took me 4 months before I found out, during the course of which I myself was diagnosed with mild atypical depression. I remember that time was a complete it was a complete haze at the time. I didn't know what was happening. I wasn't feeling okay. I would have, incessant headaches. I'd have insomnia. I had stopped sleeping completely for 2 months. I'd lost my appetite. And I went from being this very enthusiastic person into someone who had lost interest in everything, all aspects of her life. And these were all things that were obviously very abnormal, but I didn't realize that there was something bigger in this picture that I was missing until finally my doctor told me that I think you have depression. And that's when I realized what it was. And, for just finding a name to what I was going through, what I was feeling, that itself, I think the first step to recovery started there. And then over the last 2 years, again, I've struggled with my mental health on and off. There have been, absolute highs where I've felt great, and then there have been absolute lows where all those things have come back, and they've come back worse. So yeah, so like just everything that I dealt with in the last 2-3 years is the reason why we're here today, is the reason why I started Petronas, and I'll get into that later. But that was my experience with mental illness. It was bad enough, even though it was not the most drastic of cases. It was not as bad as it can get. I realized that it was bad enough for me to not want anyone else to go through this. That's the one thing that I took away from my experience. And that's why I realized that if I can do my part to make sure that at least one other person does not go through what I did, then I would have done my job. And yeah, that's where Petronas started. So next we can have maybe Krithika can tell us about her experience.
Okay. I have been struggling with mental illnesses ever since my childhood years, and at the time I did not know what was going on. And I would say the most significant effect that deteriorated my mental health was the death of my best friend. It's the same person Anvita was talking about. We had been best friends for over 12 years, and I just get a call one day that we were supposed to meet. I get a call saying, okay, like this has happened. And at first I thought it was some kind of a joke, because who calls you and says things like that? And I panicked, and I went over to the house, and then it was all like really chaotic. And it's still a very difficult topic for me to talk about, because after that I don't really remember anything, because at the time I was studying in a different city, and I had to go back immediately because I had to continue with my studies. And I remember, like, I completely ignored that fact. I was in denial for over 3-4 months, and I was like, no, it can't have happened. Like, I completely ignored it. I continued with my life over there. Because of that, my health physically and mentally started deteriorating. It got so worse that my mom had to fly down, pick me up, and fly me back here, because I couldn't move. I had body pain, I had viral fever and all of that. And then that night I remember thinking, I'm like, okay, there must be something really wrong. And I was still very, very adamant about the fact that I did not want to acknowledge that fact at all, and I did not want to think about it at any cost. And and then I kind of shifted back to Bangalore again for some sort of normalcy. And after that, like, my mental health has been on and off, and I do have some very low points in my life when I just can't breathe, or I have palpitations or anxiety throughout the night. But I actively make an effort to feel better on my own and think happy thoughts. But then some days it gets really dark, but it's okay. We'll all get better. The only time I actually sat and thought about it was this May during the lockdown, and I'm like, okay, listen, Krithika, you cannot push it any further. You have to face it. And I sat one night and I thought about it completely, and I'm like, okay, it has happened and you can't do anything about it anymore. You can't change anything that happened. Only thing you can do is like grow from it, learn from it, and maybe help somebody out. And that was one of the main reasons why I joined Petronas. So I'm glad to say that I'm doing much better now that I've acknowledged that fact, and I can, put in more efforts to just become better and do good to the society. So yeah, that has been my experience.
Thank you so much, Krithika. I mean, I could tell that it wasn't easy talking about it for you, and I'm so glad that you did. It's for you to get through what you did, and I know because I was in the same place, is extremely strong. You deserve all the credit in the world, and thank you for sharing your story with us. Next, can we have Sneha?
Yes. So My first encounter with mental health was when my best friend told me that she was going through depression, and sorry, she was diagnosed with clinical depression. And at that time, I just had heard of that term, but I didn't know what exactly it meant. So I started digging up about it and started studying more about it so that, I could like help her in any way I could. And when I started reading about all the mental health issues, I realized that I was also going through a mental health issue, which is anxiety. And since then, I've been like trying to help people because I feel that it's something that not everyone can talk about, but still, we can at least help those who talk about it. So that's my whole view on it, and that's why I feel that, as after my personal experience, I feel that everyone should get help, and I feel it's really and it's very important for me. So that's it.
Thank you so much, Sneha. Harshika, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Actually, the first time that I encountered or understood exactly what mental illness is when Anvita herself went through it, because that's the first time I even saw how it could affect a person. I've known her for about 14 years, I think, and throughout the time I've known her, she's been this person who's extremely energetic, who's extremely optimistic, very enthusiastic, and you can never see her low. Like when you look at her, there's just this energy that blooms. And after her phase, or after the period where she went through a lot, I could just look at the change in her. Like that was not, it was not her anymore, and it just took a complete toll on her. And when you look at how much it can affect a person, that's when you understand that it is something which is very serious. It's not something that people just throw out terms and be like, yeah, it's okay, you're going to go through this someday and then you're just going to be out of it another. It's not that it takes a big effect on someone, and you need to understand that. And I got that, or I understood that when I saw such a person that was that close to me go through it. And after that, I have seen many people who are close to me actually go through it, and then I realized how much it actually affects people. So I think that's the whole insight of how I got to know or understood the importance or the effect that mental health has on people. So yeah, I think it's really, really important to address it in the first place. And secondly, it's important to understand how important it is too. So that's about what I would say, about the experience that I had with mental health. And even I have gone through a couple of things, but I wouldn't say it's anything serious. But I still do feel that all of us do go through that at least some point in our life. All of us do have problems in our life. We have issues that we cannot deal with, and sometimes it just gets too much and it's overwhelming and we don't understand what's happening. So the best way I think to deal with it is first talk about it and reach out to people that you think will understand. So yeah, I think in India especially, mental health is something that's seen as a huge, I don't know, there's a big stigma around mental health. Like people do not really understand what it is, or it's just that they do understand and they do not want to acknowledge it, because anything related to mental means that you're completely out of the normalcy of the society. So people try to ignore the whole fact, which is not a good thing, I think. And yeah, so that's about it.
So much, Harshika. Listening to you talk about it just reminded me of all the times that everything that I was going through, I think she was one of the only people who actually knew what I was going through. So, yeah, I think that's what I meant about, when I asked you this question, it was about even if you've not gone through it personally, just seeing someone go through it, someone who's close to you, even that second-hand effect it can have on you. Because I know that seeing me go through it affected her as well, and same with everyone who is close to me. So this is something that there is a cascading effect when it comes to mental health. It's not just that one person who's suffering; it's all the people around them, which is why we need to talk about it even more. So, Prerana, can you tell us something about your experience?
Yeah, hi. Why not? So the thing is, I've always been dealing with issues related to anxiety. So, um, I mean, because of like recent revelations, it comes as a shock to no one that since I was a child, I've been dealing with ADHD, and later on because of experiences in high school that were related to bullying and certain bad friendships and all of that. And it cascaded into something more by the time I was in 11th and 12th grade, and it led me to make a few questionable, I wouldn't say questionable, bad, tragic choices, and but I survived. I'm here, and I was privileged enough to have a very strong support system in terms of my family and close friends, and I had access to therapy and a psychiatrist and all of this, and I also am in the medical field, so I kind of understood what was happening. So what led me to me being here was the fact that not everyone gets to have access to these resources, and not everyone has the sort of support system where they're accepted for the sort of experiences they go through, or the thoughts that come into their head, or their health. So it led me to wanting to come on the internet and help talk about this and spread a positive message that, hey, whatever you're going through, it's valid and you're not alone, and help will always be available to you. You just need to look. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prerana. I think it's fair to say from all the answers that we've gotten that this is something that whether you go through personally or not, it's something that we all need to talk about. And reaching out for help does not necessarily mean reaching out to a professional. It could be just telling a friend, and you don't know how much that can help. And then maybe with time, you will be able to realize if you're supposed to consult someone else or not. And what's scariest about mental illness, I think, I mean, if I really had to pin it down, is the fact that we spend most of the time not knowing that we were going through it. As Prerna said, she spent most or her entire childhood not even knowing that she had a certain condition, and she only found out about it now. But now that she has a name to it, it explains a lot of things that she's gone through in her life. And that's where recovery starts. Recovery starts with discovery. It's the same thing with me, how finding out what I was going through, just having a name attached to it, started my recovery, and that's where I started getting better. It was the same when I dealt with anxiety as well, having sleepless nights, palpitations through the night. It had gotten to a point where I thought it was normal until someone told me, no, that's anxiety. And then I realized, okay, this is something that is not normal and it can be fixed. So yeah, I think that's the intention of having this conversation. We can't give you professional advice on how to fix what you're going through, but we can tell you that we've gone through these things, and if you are going through it, then it can be fixed. Just you know that you can reach out to someone and you will get there. Okay, so our next question is, in your experience, that is, while dealing with it on your own or seeing someone like a friend going through it, what was the biggest barrier you faced in trying to convince people that mental health is important? What is the one thing that you struggled with explaining to people most? Harshika, we'll go with you.
Yeah, so the first thing I think is that, as Anvita already mentioned, it's very hard to diagnose a mental health issue. Like, you wouldn't know that it's a mental health issue because, it starts with symptoms like headache or your loss of appetite or loss of interest in doing things, or you're not able to sleep at night. But then you think that these things are normal. Maybe it's just that I'm just stressed out with work, or it's just my, my timeline that's been changed, or like, different other things that are happening in your life. You think that these are just the side effects of those things. You do not realize that this could be a whole new issue which you're not addressing. So it's very hard because it doesn't manifest itself physically. It doesn't show, like, if you have a fever, your body is hot, so it's a fever. That way, mental illness doesn't like really manifest itself with any physical symptoms. So it's very, very hard to diagnose mental health. And especially when someone else is going through it, it's very hard to convince them that yes, it might be something that is related to your mental health and you have to get it checked. Because we always want to believe the thing that is not the worst of a particular case, right? You don't want to think that it's something really bad, so you do not like even start thinking in that direction. You're just like, yeah, it's a simple headache, it's going to be there for some days and it's going to go away. But yeah, so I think in my experience, it's very hard to convince people because it doesn't really manifest itself physically. So when you try to tell them, they're like, no, it's not depression, or it's not anxiety, or it's not anything at all that's related to mental health. it's just my daily routine that's causing these issues. So that is, in my opinion, the barrier that I face while convincing someone to, seek help for mental health issues.
Harshika, what about you, Krithika?
Okay, the biggest barrier that I have faced, I will start with the older generation. Like, if I try to talk to somebody like my parents, and they'll be like, it's all in your head, like you'll get over it. But that's the point, right? Like, it's called mental health for a reason. It's all in your head, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't require any help, or like, some efforts to make it better. So I think that would be the biggest barrier that I have faced. And coming to like our generation, luckily my friends know that like health is important, and I really didn't have to have this conversation with them. But the other peers, they have made depression a trend. Like, even if they're sad over like small stuff, they'll be like, I'm so depressed. But no, you're not, you're sad. There is a difference. Like, you can't throw around words like depression, anxiety, and OCD for small stuff, it loses its meaning. So I think these are the biggest barriers that I have faced.
Thank you, Krithika. You raised a very important point about that, which I will get to later. Prerana, what about you?
Like Krithika said, trivialization is a major issue when it comes to mental health. But I think that the biggest contributing factor to whether people reach out or not is internalized stigma, in the sense that the sort of view we have on stuff like depression or bipolar disease or say borderline personality. We look at the stereotypes that are shown to you through media, or sometimes even psychiatry textbook. The amount of times I've read, question stems when I'm preparing for exams that describe a person with borderline personality as being completely crazy. And you look at these things and you have this sort of fixed idea of what they are, and you say, it's sort of like a glamorized version, and you say, oh, that cannot be me. It's not tangible in real life to me. It doesn't fit with my experiences. What we tend to do is we lack the dimension, when it comes to understanding these illnesses, and we tend to take them at face value, and you sort of minimalize your own struggles, and you tend to be like, I'm all right. Someone who's depressed has to be suicidal, right? I'm not, so I'm not depressed. Which is a huge barrier. People don't get help when they need to, and they're suffering, but they don't realize that whatever is happening to them is valid, and they deserve help, whether it's a serious mental issue or not. It doesn't matter. If it's affecting you, you need help. So yeah.
Thank you, Prerana. What about you, Sneha?
Like Krithika said about the older generation, we've grown up in a society where mental health doesn't even exist. Maybe now, because of our generation, there's more awareness about it. But if you just go back 5 or 10 years back, you'll see that mental health wasn't even considered as a disorder or something like that. So the thing is, we need to educate the older generation than the new generation that's coming up. So I think that is like the biggest barrier like we'll ever have to come across, because even if we have to like talk to our parents or our other friends about mental illness, they'll be like, no, like you're just fine, just go have a nap. But it doesn't work like that, like the others said. So yeah, that's all about it.
I would just like to add on to that. It's not just them not understanding what we are going through, even they go through it actually, but they do not address that because they do not know that there is something like that. So that is also another big issue, because that passes on, because when someone in your home or someone around you is actually going through it and they do not even want to address it, they do not even understand what they're going through, it is painful to you, because you know that is some issue, but they're not able to understand it, so you can't really help them, or you can't really help them get help or make them better in any way. So I think it's important for themselves to maintain a better health for them, and also for people that are around them to be better and seek support when it's needed from them.
Okay, thank you, all of you. You all raised some very important points. Everything you said, whether it's the lack of physical manifestation, internalization, trivialization, which are all like, these are like polar ends of the spectrum, right? Either people are using it trivially or they're not talking about it at all, but we're not able to strike that middle ground. And as Sneha rightly said, it's unfortunate because these things have not been a part of our textbooks. When you're reading about physical illnesses, there is no mention of this thing called mental illness. And I was also asked the same question as Neha said when I started talking about it. My mom was like, our generation, we've also gone through struggles, but we've not come out and said things like this. And that's only because they didn't know there was a name for it. They were going through the same things. There is no, like, even if you look at statistics, there's no way of saying that the depression rates are higher now because it was just that they weren't being tested back then. So, like, the fact that there is more awareness now is a step in the right direction. And it's something that we also need to go back in retrospect and start teaching our parents also, who may have completed their formal education but still need to be educated about things like this. So I think in my perspective, starting small with introducing mental health as one of your, even if it's just a section in your textbooks in school, that is a step in the right direction, and I think we could start there. But more on that later. I will go to my next question. Do you think that mental illness or bad mental health has affected your relationships with people? And if yes, then how do you think it would be easier for both sides to understand? That is, for the person who's going through something, for the other person, because sometimes there's like a very severe lack of communication, right? And both sides can take things the wrong way. Both sides can get hurt by this maybe changed behavior or whatever it is that this mental illness is manifesting as. So how have you had that happen to you in your experience? And if yes, then how did you navigate it? Before I get to you guys, I'll give you a bit of an insight into my own life. I know for a fact that my mental illness in the last year, I was going through severe anxiety, and that very adversely affected my relationships with everyone that I was close to. And I guess this is where Harshika is coming from when she was talking about it, because it really affected our friendship. It really affected my relationship with my family members. A lot of it, as I think Prerana said, it was internalized. So I didn't want to tell people that I was going through something because I didn't want them to worry about me. So instead, I was going into my own shell. I would spend all my time in my room locked up, trying not to talk to anyone because I didn't want them to see what I was going through. I didn't want them to see how much I was crying. I didn't want them to know I wasn't sleeping. And because of that, it really affected my relationships. And I actually lost a lot of people over the last year because I wasn't talking about it enough. But at the same time, I also felt like there was a lack of understanding from the other side. So there was this imbalance where I wasn't expressing enough and they weren't understanding enough. Which is why I want to know from you guys, how do you think we can strike that balance wherein people are ready to talk about it and people are ready to listen and react accordingly? Sneha, I'll start with you.
Okay, so like Anvita rightly said, I've been like in the same condition as you've been, and I've lost a lot of people then, but I've been lucky to have one person stand by me and understand everything what I've been going through, because we share that kind of relationship. Like there must be one listener and one person who can talk their heart out. So if it's mutual, then I think your relationship with that other person will last longer. But if you don't have a person who doesn't like is not ready to listen to what you're going through, then maybe yes, it'll affect your life than anything else. So that's my view on it.
Thank you, Sneha. Krithika, what about you?
I have personally not had any issues with my relationship with people due to my mental health, because, like I said, I have like amazing friends who understand everything, and if I go days without talking to them, they know that I'm in a bad phase, and then they just text me to like check up on me and all of that. But I think how you can better your relationship is like just talk about it, like acknowledge. I'm sure they will be willing to listen, and just tell them, okay, see, I'm going through this, and then like sometimes I'll just feel really low and I can't talk, and I'm sure like they will understand, and then they will give you your time. Like that is like one thing that you could do to, you know, not lose people.
Thank you, Krithika. Harshika.
Yeah, I think my advice or my view towards how you can, address a situation wherein you're in a relationship where the other person is going through something is a very simple rule or a phrase that everybody would say: be patient. Just wait, like just be patient, and they will come around. You know, it's not that they're doing it willingly. They're not trying to push you away willingly. They're not going into that bubble willingly. It's just taking a toll on them, and you have to understand that. So the only thing that is going to help them reach out to you is you being patient and understanding that they need the time. You know, if you're going to keep pushing them, if you're going to keep nudging them to, come out and talk to you, it's not going to help them in any way. So I think the advice that I would give is to be patient and listen to them and understand what they're going through, and one day it will get better. So just be there. That's what is needed. Just be there.
Thank you, Harshika. Prerana, let's go from you. You're on mute.
I was speaking with me on mute. I mean, chaotic to the max. So, no. So I've lost a few. A lot of my friends. I mean, friends I was very close to in school. I lost because personally, I mean, it was because of my mental state. I was like very sensitive, and they weren't understanding, and that is okay. Losing people because you just weren't in the headspace is okay. Just a room for dialogue, and that is the most important thing, right? So um, that the whole point is to be able to be accommodating enough that maybe it's going to be a year later or two, uh, you should be able to sit down and say, hey, that one time I was a total bitch to you, that this is what happened. And growing up helped because I had a phase where I didn't talk to this one person for a very long time, and she is one of my closest friends now. And that is just because one day outside the metro station we said, hey, this is how you hurt me, and this is this is what I want you to do, so I don't get hurt around you anymore, and you're important to me, but I don't want to lose you. And that is the most important thing, when it comes to navigating relationships, when you are going through mental health issues and your friend is also going through them. As someone who's been on both sides of the fence here, having a sort of space, a sort of time out zone, so to speak, where you can be vulnerable and accommodating for each other, and willing to hear each other out with an open mind. And it's okay to walk away or move on even after these dialogues if you cannot match your differences and if it's affecting you. So you need to know that it doesn't make you a bad person for walking away. Just know that. So yeah.
Thank you, Prerana. So I think the common theme that we had with all answers was that you just need to talk about it. Just be honest about what you're going through, and there will be people who don't understand. There will be people who do. For the people who do, they will stick around. They will be there. They'll understand your timeout zones. They will understand when you need your space. And for the people who don't, maybe you could say that they did not deserve a place in your life, or maybe they'll be back some other time when they can understand things better. But as Prerna said, it's important to understand when to let go. Don't try too hard to keep someone around and try to make them understand beyond your capacity, because you need to take care of yourself first. And in any relationship, remember that it works two ways. You can't blame a partner for not taking care of you enough just because you're going through something. It's not their responsibility. They are not therapists. At the same time, if they aren't understanding you and if they're not nudging you to take help outside, or if they're not acknowledging your feelings, then maybe you're not with the right person. So it works both ways, where both of you need to be equally open to hearing and talking about the issue at hand. And this does not just apply to mental illness, but any kind of anything that you're going through in your life, any kind of mental state that you're in, it needs to be addressed so that all of you are on the same page, and then you can choose how to navigate it accordingly. So
Yeah, I
I think,
just wanted to add, I think, one thing that needs to be said is that, people who are affected by mental health issues are at a particularly vulnerable position. Not saying that they're weak or, they're not strong enough. Strong enough is that they're more suggestible and they're more vulnerable. So establishing clear boundaries, especially in romantic relationships, is very important and something that needs to be talked about. You don't have to say yes all the time. It's okay not to. Just
yes,
stick up for
definitely.
yourself.
Yeah, I agree, because I know for a fact that when I was at the peak of my anxiety, I was a way more sensitive person than I was normally. The smallest things would trigger me, the smallest things would get on my nerves, would put me off, would make me upset. I would cry at the drop of a hat. And as she said, it's not because you're weak, it's just because you're in a particularly vulnerable state, and you need to understand that. Don't think it's an overreaction when you know that your friend is going through something and she may be acting out. You know that it's coming from somewhere and that she's not doing it intentionally, and be more mindful of that in the way you treat each other. Yeah, so my next question is for you, Prerna, because you're a medical student. There is a very common question, and I myself don't really know the answer, so it'll be interesting to hear from you. Um, what is this debate about mental illnesses being neurological versus psychiatric? Is it one of the two, or is it yeah, the lines blurred? Is there not enough research? Like, what is the deal there?
Okay, I just want to put out a disclaimer. I am not a psychiatrist. I haven't studied enough psychiatry to answer this definitively, but from what I've studied, the lines are pretty blurred, right? Because your brain is an organ, and like all organs, it malfunctions, and that's okay. That is why you have doctors out there. Whether it's psychiatric or psychological, or whether it's organic, as in it is a sort of structural or physiological lapse in function in the brain, well, it's sort of both, right? Because psychology is basically how you react to the world around you and how the world around you affects your inner world, right? And all of this comes down to how your brain ultimately processes these things, and how it processes these things are a function of how you were brought up and what your environment is. So the bottom line is, it is a intricate sort of dance between your environment, your psyche, that is who you are as a person, and your organic chemistry and the brain's structure and the chemistry itself. Because we know that a lot of people are predisposed to certain psychiatric conditions, which would, you could say that, oh, it's nurture, because they're brought up around people who are struggling with it, and that could predispose them to developing these things. While that is true, the genetic component seems to be more of a structural physiological thing. So whether if your brain doesn't make enough serotonin or happy juice, you're predisposed to developing depression. And the current model for depression or whatever, while they do have good psychological sort of theories behind them, the neuroscience of it too is very fascinating, in the sense that it tries to argue out these diseases in a more what we would call an organic or a more structural, functional, physiological sort of pathology that is developing, rather than just a psychological one. So to as a TLDR, I'd say it's a blurred line. It's a bit of both. A neurologist wouldn't be able to help you as much as a psychiatrist would. However, if you're having a sort of psychological disturbance that is brought on by an organic disorder like Huntington's or Alzheimer's, then probably a neurologist would help you more. So I think at the end of the day, it comes down to nuances and sort of jargon that goes on in the medical world. But you just need to be assured, as general population who's going through these things, that you will doctors will do their best to help you. You just need to have faith and go on with it.
Thank you, Prerna. I think, as you said, the lines may be blurred, but the doctors know that part, and so if required, they'll be able to refer you to a doctor on the other side. So I think we should just keep that faith in the fact that they know what they're doing. They themselves are aware of the fact that these lines are blurred, so they will be able to treat you accordingly. I think we're running out of time, so we'll make this a little quick. Yes, this is a very important question that I'm very excited about because I have not heard from you about this. I want you to know from you guys what exactly drew you towards Petronas. Now, I think in brief, you kind of touched upon it when you were talking about your personal experience, but I want to know if it's just that one thing, what exactly made you want to join Petronas? We'll start with Krithika.
Like I said, when I found out that you were doing some, like you're taken an initiative to bring awareness about mental health, I couldn't help but apply because I've always tried to be an advocate for mental health. And any chance I get, I'm always like, no, it's not that, it's this, please use the right terms and everything. So I just wanted to join and like do something that will help people. So basically to give back to society.
Thank you, Krithika. Sneha, what about you?
So, like I said, I've always wanted to help people who are dealing with their mental health issues. And so when I got the opportunity and when Harshika told me about it, I was more than happy to just join your team and help as many people as possible to be better in whatever they are facing.
Thank you, Sneha. Prerana, what about you?
So the thing is, I've known Anvita since I was in 11th grade, and we met because of her best friend, in a way, because someone very close to her, to Pragna, was someone who was very, very close to me, is very close to me. And seeing him go through, the loss was hard. And when Anvita came to me and she spoke to me about Petronas, and it sort of reminded me of all of this. And I could tell that, there was this sort of, that one experience that sort of brought us together, in the sense that we've seen both sides of this. We know how it's going to be. And, and she, it was almost like, trust me, I know what I'm doing and I need you to help me with this. And it was sort of a no-brainer for me at that point. But, I was like, I'm going to support Anvita through this, because it wasn't easy for anyone who watched it all go down, so to speak. And also the fact that she was pretty serious and she was well informed compared to some of the other mental health pages I'd seen on the internet, which made me very wary about the whole concept as a whole. But when I listened to Anvita talk about it, it was a no-brainer for me. It was like, yeah, she knows what she's doing and she's been through the worst possible thing, and just, trust her. That's why I'm here.
Thank you. So basically, it was me. Great answer.
Basically.
What's the point for that? Okay, Harshika, what about you?
I think that would my answer also would be on the same lines. The fact that she spoke to me one day. She just called me and she spoke to me about this idea that she had, and she explained everything. And the thing that stuck to me the most was that most people go through it, right? And they are okay. They go through it. They talk about it. But then the fact that she went through it and she wanted to do something so that nobody else would go through it, that that is something which is very noble. Like, it's very hard to do in the first place, and to take the initiative after you've been through it is really hard. And the fact that she did it, hats off to her. And I completely wanted to support her through it, and I definitely wanted to be a part of such a a platform which is driven towards helping people. And it's driven towards erasing a stigma which is majorly present in our country, which is actually kind of ruining many people's lives. So anything or in any way, if I could contribute to making that less worse, I would do it. And to do it along with my best friend is the best thing. And so I couldn't ask for anything better. So yeah.
This is so sweet. I feel it's more like a personal ode, but thank you all for your answers. I think apart from everything that they said about personal relevance, the one thing that's important to point out is that there are so many initiatives out there like this who are operating on the internet, and I mean we are also very wary of the fact that we're being responsible with the kind of content that we're putting out. We're trying to make sure that everything is coming from a trusted source or is being reviewed by professionals in certain cases. And in case you are also following a page, and that includes us, please hold us accountable if you feel like we're crossing the line or if we are not being responsible with our reporting or the kind of content that we're delivering. But always make sure that you're keeping in check the kind of platforms or the kind of any kind of content that you're following, especially when it comes to mental health, because from every if there's one thing that you can take away from this discussion, it's the fact that there is so much misinformation that has thrown us off. Like we could be miles ahead in terms of our capabilities with mental health in the kinds of treatment and awareness and everything that we have. I mean, we're already doing a lot better today, but we could be doing even better if we weren't set back by all these constraints. And the main constraint is misinformation. So if we can get rid of that, then that's something that will, put us ahead in the next few years at least when it comes to treating mental health. And for that, you need to take personal accountability in making sure that you're picking your sources responsibly. That includes us again, or please call us out if you feel like we're not doing a good job, and we will try and get better. But yeah, that brings me to my next question. What is your personal vision for Petronas now that you're a part of the team? Where do you want to see Petronas in the next few years? And what is something that we may not be doing right now that you want us to be doing soon? I'll start with Prerana.
I muted myself again and forgot to unmute myself. Since ever since I started sort of acknowledging my own struggles, the one thing that I really wanted to do was sort of have a common sort of platform for where people can come and they can avail mental health services. So if suppose you have a fever, right, and you walk into the OPD of a hospital, it's quite easy to find a general physician. If you're feeling breathless, you can find a pulmonologist, you can find a cardiologist. But I don't know why looking for a therapist or a psychiatrist is very hush-hush. It's something you've got to do under the table. Brought shame on your entire family. So I wanted there to be a sort of platform where, especially youth, people who are students, can come on and they can be directed towards psychiatrists or therapists or whatever help that they truly need without having their family involved or having to tell a couple of friends and hide things and go through all of that hassle, worry about it. Instead of that, it would be quite easy for them to be able to reach out to say a certain organization, maybe by the name Petronas, who could guide them towards mental health professionals and we could maybe have services only for students where we could maybe have student discounts, because God knows getting therapy is not something anyone can do. I'm privileged in that way. So that was something I really wanted to see Petronas sort of integrated into its sort of modus operandi, so to speak.
We will definitely talk about this more in our future plans. Krithika, what about you?
Hopefully a certified, I want Petronas to be like a certified mental health foundation, and which reaches to like a lot more people, and then they find it very comfortable to just come to our page and then go to the post and be like, oh, okay, they're doing a good job. And basically what I want Petronas to be to people is like a big warm hug, like when they need it. So I really, really hope we reach that point.
Thank you, Krithika. In fact, I don't know how you did it, but you captured exactly what I intended to do with Petronas. I don't think I've even said this to you ever. But the intention of Patronus, anyone who knows the name, anyone who's seen Harry Potter will know where it's coming from. So Patronus was meant to start off as that. We're not professionals, and so there isn't much that we can do to help. But if we can give you that warm virtual hug from across the world or through the internet, then we would have done our job in some way. So that is exactly what we intend to do, and that's the one thing that's going to stay till the end for however long that we exist. Harshika, what about you?
Yeah, I think I would like to touch on, what Prerana actually said. I think I want us to be an organization going ahead wherein we are something that people come to when they need help and they know for sure that they can get help from us. That is the point that I want us to reach. Like, let it be, availing cheaper services for therapy, or just, connecting to people to feel better, or just like talk about it, and just put yourself out there about mental health. We should be a platform that is going to help people do that. Like, that is what I want Petronas to be in the future, in, say 5 years down the line, or how much over time it takes to reach there. But yes, that's what I want us to do.
Thank you, Harshika. Sneha.
So I'd like to go with what Krithika said, because what she said was more apt, because that what you'll hug, what you said was like really touching and all that. So, and one more thing I like to add on is that we educate more people about mental health and give them the help they want. So that's all.
Yeah, thank you, all of you. I think you all captured in a sense what I'm trying to do with Petronas and what we will be doing together with Petronas. Just a little tip from my side. Petronas was started off with the idea of straight away becoming a foundation, a mental health foundation. But then plans changed, and then I realized that it'll be easier to start off as an initiative without formally registering, and feel the space, understand exactly what is going on, what is required to be done, and then going and registering, because that would make more sense, which is what we're doing right now. Obviously, there are lots of constraints in the form of this pandemic. We are completely online right now, and there are lots of things that we want to do that we haven't been able to. In parallel to this, we are also running the Beat the Blues campaign for maternal mental health, wherein we're looking for some sort of policy change in the way that maternal mental health is treated in India. So that's another big thing that we're looking at. In terms of future plans, Petronas one day, hopefully, as they all said, will be a registered mental health foundation that is looking to provide affordable and accessible therapy, because I mean, I know as someone who's been there and as someone who's talked to so many other people who've been there, especially during this pandemic. I think Prerana, you and I have talked about this a lot. So many people have reached out asking for connections to therapists and all that, and the recurring theme is it's too expensive. So it got into a point where more people are talking about it, more people are ready to ask for help, but not everyone has a privilege. And this is the thing with mental illness, right? There are people who think that mental illness is a privilege. No, it's not. Mental illness is an illness. That's it. But unfortunately, today, seeking treatment for mental illness is kind of a privilege. Not everyone can do that. Not everyone has the resources. And that's one thing that we really want to change. It's something we will be working on. It is something that's very important to all of us, as my panelists have shared. So yes, that is what we have in future plans. But until then, we're going to be running these campaigns that are applicable to everyone, not just people who are going through some sort of a mental illness, but anyone who may be having a bad day or just wants to be comforted in some way. We're going to be trying and taking care of all of you on our online platforms. So follow us on our Instagram page for more. We'll be having some exciting campaigns coming up for you in the next few months. And yes, I think this is bringing us to the end of the session. So, my last question for you, which is obviously very important, even more so in the midst of this pandemic, which has taken our mental health to a different scale. Some of us have improved drastically, some of us the other way. So, keeping that in mind, just if you had to pick one self-care tip that you have learned and you have adapted for yourself, that works for you all the time, something that could be very personal to you, that you recommend for anyone else, because again, we're not professionals, but we can tell people how to take care of themselves, maybe with our own experience. So yeah, just give us one self-care tip of yours that has worked and that you swear by. I will start with Sneha.
So personally, when I feel low, what I do is I write down my thoughts on a sheet of paper, basically journaling. and it makes me makes me so much better because I literally pour my heart into that into that sheet of paper. So that's what helps me a lot, and that's my gift.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Sneha, because I think it's very important because we don't always have access to people. Sometimes we don't even want to talk to people, but just pouring out your feelings on a piece of paper, there's no problem of confidentiality there. You can throw away the piece of paper, you can do whatever you want with it, and it still acts as an outlet. So it's very important. I also started journaling recently, and it's really helped. In fact, it's also kind of a progress tracker, right? Like a year down the line, maybe you can look back and say, I came so far from there, and you just go back and read it. Although I've heard that it's not good to read your journals back. If you ever want to, you can also use it as a progress check. So yeah, I think that's a very important thing to take away. Try and start journaling. Maybe use prompts from the internet. Maybe you can ask professionals. They'll also have some prompts that help a lot. But journaling is something that I recommend for everyone personally. Yeah. So Harshika, what about you?
Yeah, I think one tip that I would like to offer is when you're whirling in your thoughts, when there's this whole network of thoughts in your head and you're extremely overwhelmed, right? Like you do not know what to think and it's just all just very clumsy in your head. Just sit down for a moment and just keep repeating this one single statement in your mind that you're worth it. And, try to align all of your thoughts based on that. Like you are important, so anything or any ill thought you're having in your head, try to see whether that thought is actually worth being in your mind. Stating the fact that you are important helps you understand certain things are not relevant in your life and you can just get rid of them, because more than anything, you need to be good. That is what your aim should be. Like you need to take care of yourself, like you are worth it. So that's the thing I personally do, and it does help me a lot of times to get rid of a lot of thoughts which are very unnecessary, and it clears my mind and it helps me understand myself better. So yeah, that's one thing that I would say you can try out.
So basically, what she was talking about is affirmations. Positive affirmations are what people say, and lots of people recommend this, not just professionals, but also you will see people who practice meditation, mindfulness. This is a very integral part of mindfulness. In fact, there are guided meditation sessions that focus on positive affirmations, wherein you have to catch on to this one statement that will positively reinforce your attitude into believing that you are worth it. Because all of it comes down to that, right? I can tell you with my personal experience, the worst thing that happened to me after dealing with mental illness was not feeling like I'm worth it anymore. And I think we can get through anything, right? You can get through any kind of struggle, any kind of barrier if you feel like you deserve to get through it. If you don't feel like you're worth fighting for, then you won't fight for yourself, and then there is no recovery from there. So the one thing that you need to keep intact no matter what you're going through is the belief that you are worth it and you deserve space in this world. So look up affirmations. We can also do a post on that ourselves. And yeah, positive affirmations is something that I also personally recommend. Krithika, what about you?
Just a second. Also, you guys need to understand, I don't know, some people might think that they don't deserve it, but you might be going through a really rough time. All of us do go through it. There might be people around you that might tell you that you don't deserve it, but trust me, you do. Okay, that there's a reason that you were born to this planet. And I think, I really don't know the numbers, but I think around 400 trillion species compete with each other to be born as a human. So you are born as one, and that is definitely a privilege. So since you're here, you definitely deserve it. Do not think that you don't deserve it, and don't let that thought affect you.
That is a very powerful line, Harshika. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Krithika, what about you?
Okay, adding to Harshika's point, when you're particularly indulging like self-loathing, self-hating statements in your mind, like think about whether you would say the same things to another person. You wouldn't, right? So why would you do that to yourself? So this one sentence can act like a barrier, and just flush down all your negative. I wouldn't say all, but some of them. You'll start introspecting. You're like, okay, I wouldn't say that to others. Like, I don't deserve to say that to myself. And another thing that you could do is indulge in any activity that you like every day, like just one thing that you like. Example, like if you like baking, just bake a cookie and make it and then have it, or just go out, get some fresh air. I know you're all tired of hearing go for a walk, you're sad, but no, just go out, get some fresh air and come back. Like, I can't promise that it will fix you, but it will make it very, very easy to get through your day, that one small activity.
I completely agree, Krithika. This whole, I've also heard it so many times, go for a walk, and I always tell people, no, I just want to sit here and cry instead. But it actually does help if, I mean, it is a proven fact that it takes your mind off what you're doing when you're surrounded by something else, when you're distracted. In fact, psychologists also recommend to do um, engage in something that is active. And when you say active, it's something that you need to do to take your mind off whatever you're spiraling in. And if you do something passive like say reading or watching a show, it won't work, although you think it will. It's not That's not going to help because your brain is not engaged in that. You could still be passively watching and still thinking about it at the back of your head. But if you're engaged in some sort of a physical activity like exercise, walking, yoga, or even if you're studying, like learning something actively, that can take the focus of whatever you're spiraling through and then shift it to something that's actually worth your attention. That's something that you really do need to keep in mind. Lastly, we Prerana. Yeah, what about you?
Yeah. It comes as a surprise to literally no one that I'm a pretty chaotic person, and what really helps me is, stillness. Taking some sort of time out of the day to really be still and listen to myself. Call it mindfulness, call it introspection. It's not something you need to just sit still and do. You can be out there running, but you can still be still inside, and being still on the inside for a short amount of time in the day really helps you gain sort of sort of a mastery over bringing yourself into that sort of state when you feel yourself spiraling. So having that sort of control helps, and it's not something you need to do all the time. It's just a quick fix, and until you can get better. And the other thing that really helps me is having a strong routine. Waking up early, eating food on time, being very, very strict and stubborn about your routine sort of puts my life that is so chaotic, and it's all over the place. And especially now in the pandemic, when I'm preparing for my USMLE, and when I'm stuck at home doing absolutely nothing, having that sort of routine really helps my mental health. It eases my anxiety. And as you said, doing stuff actively, endorphins when you exercise are known to boost your mood. So engage in some, you don't have to do much. Just walk out in the sun. The sun is really good for you. I know it's hot, I know it's uncomfortable, it makes you sweaty, but it's really good for you. So give it a choice. Go outside and be happy. Easier said than done, but
Yeah.
you will be, at least.
Yeah, thank you, Prerna. So I think what every one of you said is something that I have learned for myself, and I think it's so nice to see that we're all kind of on this path of self-discovery, trying to really understand what works for us. And the thing about mental health is it's so subjective and personal that what applies to me may not necessarily apply to you. Maybe you'll try out journaling and you'll realize that it's not for you. Same with meditation. But that's why it's important to take some time out and figure yourself out. And that's why for me personally, this pandemic has been great because I got a lot of time to do that, to understand myself better, to understand what's good for my mental health, what's bad for it, and take my decisions accordingly. So to add on to what all the other panelists said, my personal tip would be to set boundaries. And this is in the sense where you should be assertive about what you want, by saying that if there is something that you really want to do, don't think about how it's going to affect other people, and like don't try and keep to yourself or hide in the corner just because you don't want to hurt people's feelings by being assertive. It's your right to take space. You deserve to have a place in this world, and you can do that in any which way you want, as long as you're not hurting someone. um, and the same way, along the same lines, saying no is also an equally important boundary. if you don't want to hang out with someone, or if you don't want to go out, don't force yourself to do it just because you want to protect people's feelings, because the person who's going to see you through till the end is you, and you need to be protecting your feelings first. So always look out for yourself first. Keep boundaries accordingly. Choose what's good for you, people, situations, whatever it is. Only engage with things that are positively contributing to your life. If there are things that are that don't deserve a place in your life, let them go. It's okay. It will be okay. And yeah, so I think that brings us to the end of this session.
Just a
First,
second. Before that, hold on. I think some people would have just noticed the irony in what she said, that don't do things that would hurt people. And then she said that it's okay, even if it hurts people. But what she exactly meant there is that if you saying no is going to hurt someone, don't bother about it. Don't intentionally do something to hurt someone is what she meant. Being assertive, if it's going to hurt someone else, you're not directly indulging in their life by saying no, right? So you can take time off. You don't have to help everybody around the world. You don't have to say okay to what everybody says. That's what she meant by, it's okay to be assertive if it's going to hurt someone else. She didn't mean that intentionally try and do something that you want to do to hurt someone. Just making that clear.
Yeah.
What I meant, like, don't be afraid to take your own space, but like, don't go into someone else's territory and hurt them that way. So yeah, that is what I meant. Thank you. Yeah. So now that we're at the end of this session, first of all, I want to say thank you all so much for taking time today and doing this. I really hope that this session will be helpful to anyone who's watching. I hope you can take something away from this. Apart from that, I also wanted to say that, as I said, we will be putting the link in the description below to Patronus's page if you don't follow us already. And you can follow us for more content on mental health. We're going to try and do more exciting things in the future. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us there. If you want any professional help, we cannot help you ourselves, but we can maybe connect you to someone who can. You can check out the highlights on our page on Instagram. There is a Get Help highlight where you can contact psychologists, psychiatrists, and professionals. If not, again, you can drop us a message and we'll try and find help for you. Apart from that, if you're just having a bad day, or if you just want some sort of comforting words, you can drop us a message and someone from our team will get back to you. And yeah, that's about it. Again, a very, very happy Mental Health Day to all of you. I hope that from now on, you make it a priority to take care of your mental health first, and then also the mental health of everyone around you. Try and be more aware of what's going on, and make sure that you are discarding unnecessary information, especially about mental health, because that is something that everyone, at least in India, needs to know today more than ever. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.